Hello and welcome to Archer Enemies. This is the Hawkeye reaction show from the Comic Crush. I am Paul. I am here with Liz.
Hello.
Hi, Liz. How are you?
Yep, doing well. How are you?
It feels like only moments ago that I saw you. So we're recording this on the back of doing the comic show, which is already out and you can find on the channel. You can find all the other episodes for this show on there as well. I will get off my arse and make an effort and put all the links in the description for the recent episodes of this. Again, please do watch the show. It is good. Hello to everyone listening on the podcast as well. I hope you are enjoying this. I hope you're keeping up with Hawkeye and enjoying that. We're going to talk about our own enjoyment or not of Hawkeye. Who am I kidding though?
Yeah,
who am I kidding?
Yeah, certainly not me.
Consistently good. I really hope they don't shit the bed before the end of the season, because
it has been
every
great.
episode
has been a banger, honestly.
So Liz, episode 4 from last week's cliffhanger, Jack Decane, is it Decane?
Yeah,
Decane. Holding the Ronin sword to Hawkeye's throat after catching him in the apartment, not realizing that he's there with Kate. Obviously a fine irony in the fact that it's the Ronin sword that could be the thing that kills Hawkeye. It doesn't though.
No,
because Jack recognizes.
Well, Jack doesn't. No, Jack doesn't recognize.
Isn't it Jack? Who is it?
No. It's Eleanor. So Eleanor walks in and says, "Why is there an Avenger in my living room?" And then the penny drops for Jack, and he's like, "Oh, you are the Archer." And Kate says Hawkeye, branding issue, and Clint's still like, it's Clint, which is like this ongoing thing, which I think is quite, it's a little commentary about how Clint sees himself versus how Kate sees him and how she wants him to see himself.
The push and pull of the wider public identity versus the real identity versus the kind of
versus Clint, versus Clint himself and his own internal conflict about, who he is. And the fact that he kind of just doesn't like all this attention, and he just wants to be Clint Barton, family man, and the world keeps saying, but you're bigger than that.
Also, I think part of Clint's thing is punishing himself for the things he did as Ronin, which he doesn't want to be recognized as the hero or even the villain. He just wants, as you say, to go through his life quietly. But I think part of it is atonement for
Natasha, for one
thing, and the stuff he did as Ronin,
the stuff he did as Ronin, and also the guilt he's carrying over Natasha's death. She was, in his words, she was the best, and why did he get to live and she didn't? I think he has a lot of guilt wrapped around that, and I loved at a certain point during a conversation that he has with Kate further into the episode, you actually get that Matt Fraction Hawkeye title put into a conversation, "My life as a weapon," where he said, she says, "You're a hero," and he says, "No, I was a weapon. It's just, which people were pointing me in the direction,
And sorry, buddy, go on.
Right. But I just thought that it was worked beautifully into the conversations, in the show, because that kind of underlines how he sees himself. He doesn't see himself as a hero. He sees himself as an instrument to be used either for good or bad.
I also, you have to remember that he was a spy, and that he was the kind of combat end of being a spy, and that is never going to be pretty. So he's running around as sort of a sort of more down and dirty James Bond for a lot of his career, if you like, and then gets drafted into this sort of weird superhero game. And also, I think the stuff with the way he treats the LARPers itself is a commentary on the way he feels about
the way people see him.
No, actually, I think it's for me. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying for me, it's a commentary on the way he feels about superheroism and, you know, Thor and Iron Man and all that kind of stuff. Like the kind of, because, you know, in this, he's constantly fighting having a costume, and, you know, and I think it's something to do with that kind of what he probably considers to be the sillier end of.
That's what see. That's that. I think we were talking about the same thing. But
okay,
like,
sorry,
you know,
yeah.
But yeah, his sort of disdain is how he sort of you know, sees the LARPers, and how he also feels that people might view him, you know, as part of that, you know, as part of these costumed heroes, you know, running around with capes and stuff.
Because identity-wise, it is quite limiting. Like, even as you said at the beginning, you know, where Jack calls him the Archer. That is a very limiting, descriptive, but still limiting term. To just go, oh, you're the Archer. And it's just like, yeah, man, but, you know, it can also be this, this, and this, right? So there is a lot of interesting stuff going on there. The uncomfortable. I love the uncomfortable dinner with Eleanor, Jack, and Clint and Kate.
There were there's a lot of comedy, sort of, you know, on like just Kate's like, oh yeah, we're partners, and no, we're not. You know, he's my friend, not really. You know, just the back and forth between him and Kate was just really funny.
It's exactly, you know, mirrors a lot of times when I've been out with Liz and she describes us as friends. I'm always very quick to point out to people, no, we just work together sometimes.
Partners, am I right? Literally. Title of the episode.
Not if I had my way, Liz. Right, no. Just kidding. So yeah, there's a lot of kind of good fun stuff, but also a lot of quite meaningful stuff happening there. And I think what's interesting is by the end of the episode, that changes, or about halfway through, I think his kind of thing starts to change in a way. And I think it's that scene you mentioned that does it. You know, where they're over at the aunt's house.
Which was a great scene, but we'll get to that.
Yeah. So what kind of was the next bit? I can't remember the order that things happening. Sorry, my brain is mush.
Okay. I mean, well, it kind of leads from they have the, you know, as you say, the dinner scene with Jack and Eleanor, which ends with Eleanor walking Clint to the door and basically saying, "Stay away from my daughter," in so many words.
Yeah.
Like, you know. And she does it in kind of a mean way by bringing up Natasha. You know, I don't know whether she is aware of his relationship with Natasha.
Now, there is a thing I want to bring up there. Now, when you look at these, you see a couple of private phone conversations with Eleanor, and increasingly, it feels like she's the big bad. Increasingly,
it feels like she is at the very least involved in some sort of you know, shady business, but I don't know if it's as cut and dry as her being involved with the Kingpin, you know, who of course is yet to be confirmed, but you know, repeatedly
looking increasingly likely.
He's referred to as like the big guy, and you know, there's just all these hints that yes, it's got to be the Kingpin. I'm just gonna refer to it as yes, okay, you know, if we're talking it's a Kingpin until I'm proven wrong. But we don't know if that's who Eleanor is on the phone with. We do know that this shell company, Sloan Limited, is laundering money for the tracksuits, and that Jack Duquesne is listed as the owner of Sloan Limited. But is it the Jack? I mean, Jack comes across as kind of buffoonish. Is Eleanor just using Jack? You know, like kind of throwing him under the bus by making him unwittingly the owner of this shell company, or is it Jack himself, or Armand Duquesne, in fact, you know, who sort of is framing Jack? You know, it's hard to say at this point what Jack's involvement.
I think it's
Eleanor's.
Little Armand. I think it's Armand the Seventh. I think Armand. That little bastard is up to something. I think
you really are gunning for Little Armand.
Yeah, I mean, there's still quite a lot of interest. I mean, we've only got 2 episodes to go, and thankfully only two more episodes of this show. So it means that after that, I don't have to see you for like 4 or 5 weeks. It's awesome. I can't wait. I'm so eager to get to the end of the show. I'm not excited about Hawkeye. I'm just excited about being able to sign off and not talk to you for 6 weeks.
You will be crying into your pillow.
I'll be crying with tears of joy, getting drunk on pre-mixed fucking espresso martinis. That's
speaking of pre-mixed. Speaking of pre-mixed alcoholic beverages, we do wind up. Well, actually, okay, I'm skipping a scene because there was a very entertaining scene that follows with Clint and Kate drinking strawberry daiquiris together. But
I really liked all that. I mean, first of all, one of the things that comes out of that is his phone call to Laura.
Yes, so that's
a lot of stuff going on here.
A lot of stuff.
Because Laura starts speaking to him in German, very good German, indicating that actually she kind of has a bit more of a skill set than we previously thought.
A lot of I think a lot of people were have basically theories abounding now about Laura Barton, because we really didn't know very much about her as a character beyond the fact that yes, she's Clint's wife, she's a mom, she's we know that they've been together for quite a long time because they've got a a teenage son and a teenage daughter. But we don't really know a lot about her as a character. I mean, so this was an interesting and very welcome surprise, I think, to see that actually they kind of work together. Like, he's asking her, oh, can you check out this shell company? Can you do this? Can you do that? And then she's telling him, can you check this out? And it's like, okay, they actually have like a partnership in this way. It's like she's not separate from that area of his life. They, they're obviously together in it, and it makes you question, okay, so really, who is she? Like, is this and there are a lot of theories. And do you want to talk about some of the popular ones?
Sure, you go for it. I actually haven't read a lot of the theories on.
Okay, well, it some of it ties in to the Rolex now. So it's not just Laura Barton's identity that is being called into question, but also we're talking about this Rolex that has been, kind of one of the MacGuffins running through the show since episode 1. They've been after this watch, and it turns out the watch is currently in Echo's possession. We don't really know, and it was in fact what the tracksuits were originally after. When they stormed the gates, and they weren't even after the Ronin suit; they were after this watch. So during Clint's conversation with Laura, she basically says you need to get this watch, and later it's explained by Clint. Well, that watch belongs to somebody who I used to work with, who's been out of the game for a long time. But this watch, could reveal their identity.
Now, I'm sorry, I have read one theory, which is it's a Barton family heirloom. Now, whether they mean the married Barton family, as in Laura's dad, maybe, or.
Well, I mean, the thing is, okay, so you could take that to mean numerous things. You could take so some of the popular fan theories are that the Rolex could belong to a character that that Clint's worked with, in terms of like, all right, what characters have been out of the game for a long time who could spoil their identity. Cap, Old Man Steve.
His identity is public, so I'm not sure.
Yeah, but his identity as Old Man Steve Rogers, not so much. Okay. Like, people assume that he's dead, or they've been kind of cagey actually about how what people know, what the public knows. However, it's like, okay, he obviously left and went off the grid, and wants to live his life separate. So, but it's a possibility. So let's say Steve is one possibility. Another possibility, Nick Fury. Yeah. We know Fury has been off the grid for quite some time.
Theory.
Yes, and we know he's coming back for Secret Invasion. So it's like, okay, this could be an interesting way to connect him back to what's going on in the current continuity. So Nick Fury is another popular fan theory. Perhaps favorite is Coulson.
Okay.
Yeah. Now this, I don't know how well this holds up because, it's like, okay, did Clint know that he, was actually alive? Because obviously Shield ran for years, like the Agents of Shield, rather, the that TV series. And would Coulson really have, he and Clint kind of had like a friendship and a special relationship in those first couple movies. They were always kind of together. So it would be, surprising to me if he didn't let Clint somehow know that he was alive all that time. But, then again, maybe not. Whatever it is, like, I think where we leave off with him at the end of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is that he's kind of gone off on his own. And so I would love for them to bring Coulson back in. I think people would, he's like a real fan favorite character. And people who didn't really watch Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. still love that character. I didn't watch Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. really beyond the first season.
You know what? I'm slowly watching it. I think I've got through the first 2 seasons, and I believe I've started season 3, but I'm kind of tuning in and out of it whenever it's on.
I'd love to see him back in the real like MCU proper. I think it's been enough time. It's been like 10 years since Avengers came out. Yeah, I
mean, obviously we had the flashback stuff. The kind of
he's popped up. He's popped up in Captain Marvel, and but I think people would really welcome him back with open arms. So I would love it to be Coulson. However, the most popular fan theory at the moment is that actually the watch somehow belongs to Laura Barton, and that she's not really Laura Barton, but that she is Mockingbird, aka Bobby Morse. Or a version of Mockingbird, because in the comics, like, Mockingbird is kind of like his
ex-wife.
Yeah, ex-wife, like, his most long-running, most significant love interest.
I mean, now that obviously would render Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. kind of inert, because we did have Bobby Morse paid by Adrian Padalecki, paid excellently by Adrian Padalecki.
Yeah, who is great, but like, so they wouldn't actually need her to be Bobby Morse to be Mockingbird. Like the MCU can do what they want. Yeah. Like they did with Sylvie, for example.
And interestingly enough,
in Loki, they kind of, they will sort of twist characters around like they did with Hela in Thor Ragnarok. They changed her, so they can do that, and it would be really cool to me if in fact, actually, she was like a proper spy back in the day, and and they worked together, and she's just kind of retired to be a mom, and this watch is somehow connected to her identity, and like, actually, so there you go.
Interestingly enough,
what?
I'll get this out, fucking Carmelo. Interestingly enough, Feige did say something in the press about the nature of all the Marvel shows, etc., and he was like, as far as I'm concerned, now something along these lines, I believe, all the old Marvel movies, like the X-Men movies and Fantastic Four and all that, were canon because of the multiverse,
right?
Which would make both things true. Right. I mean, Marvel's very good at having its cake and eating it. And I think that's very much driven by Kevin Feige's outlook on things. And plus, also the all-consuming jaws of Disney.
I think that's brilliant. I honestly think that that is so smart, because it just means like, okay, like the rule book is thrown out the window and we can do whatever we want. We can cherry pick whichever characters we want from, whichever branches of this, and we can make it work. So I think that's great.
Yeah. So essentially he's now got to go and find the watch. He's got to retrieve the watch from Echo's apartment, which Kate, helps with.
Right.
This was a great sequence. I loved the whole kind of suspense build up of this stuff, and the fact that Kate just first outwits him by kind of not taking his plan for entering the building, and getting him with her charm, basically. But of course she instantly Kates it all up by she bishops it all up by instantly kind of putting her foot in it with the old guy that she's
yeah, looks like a crazy person,
in
the
she
elevator. And
and I love that because that is all the sides of her character kind of put into one scene. She has to kind of retrieve the watch, which she does. However, problems
she gets caught.
So she gets caught by Echo, and then we have that very interesting exchange with Clint, kind of going, "Well, she can't be in there because Echo's here now fighting me," and we have that. And now, did you? I kind of almost thought for a second, they're not going to give Echo like proper superpowers, are they, where she can be in two places at once or some sort.
And as soon as they were like, "No, she's on the roof here with me," I was like, I knew. Like, I was okay. Yep, I know who's going to be on that roof.
I knew when they cut back and it was like the whole
that costume,
that
really,
really
iconic Yelena costume. I felt like they built up to it really well in this episode, actually, with the the mentions of Natasha and even the little flashback scene we get, that little dream sequence we get, and we kind of skipped over one of my favorite parts of the episode, which is Clint taping up like bags of frozen peas and stuff all over his body, which is like straight out of the Fraction comics. I just loved it.
But that is kind of saying to me, oh, he's definitely going to hang it all up at the end of this.
I don't know about that.
I think it is. I think it is meant to kind of pass the torch. Or I think that what's more likely is it's entirely possible that Barton and Barton will become the new Nick Fury.
Could be.
They'll run Shield,
something like that. I mean, I'm like, I would be personally very sad if Jeremy Renner was like, "Oh, I'm going to hang up my hat and not be Hawkeye anymore," because I think people would be really happy.
I wonder if we're not going to get Shield by the end of it, but what we'll get is Sword. And because of the growing kind of nature of the threats that are coming.
Well, I mean, Sword already exists, like, in
I'm sorry, you're right. You're right. It does. I'm sorry. Yeah. You're absolutely right. Apologies. Ignore that theory, guys.
But I mean, Shield is different, existed in different permutations, and in fact, I mean, it doesn't really exist right now because it's been dismantled since Winter Soldier or so basically, they could rebuild. I mean, if you do have Nick Fury coming back, that easily I could see, I think everybody would be stoked to see Fury and Coulson and, all of that sort of rebuilt, but, without the infiltration of Hydra, as a factor.
I mean, the scene with Yelena is great. I mean, what really kind of excited me was this kind of 4-way combat you get, and that's fun. But I thought what was really beautiful as a piece of direction and a piece of writing was Kate going over the roof, attached to the wire, and when Clint looks over and you get that sense, and they do the little callback with the music from Endgame. Which I thought was gorgeous, really well done.
Yeah.
But of course, he gets to kind of do over and save her this time, and I actually like that moment where he just went, "Get out of here," because he knows who's coming after him now, and he's kind of shit. Yeah, I don't want to put her in any more danger. I thought that all that was beautifully played.
It was
and even better for me was Kate Bishop's stroppy stomp back into the building. I absolutely loved it because it was just so, as a piece of body language, it was just so perfectly judged. It was just like, great. Yeah. I mean, increasingly, she's becoming one of my favorite actors.
Oh, she's great. I mean, honestly, I think she is Kate to a T. You know, she really embodies that character perfectly. Things that might be, almost unlikable in a character, she makes charming, and that is Kate. Kate is a lot of things that are some of her qualities could be really kind of off-putting, except that they're balanced out by so much charm and so much sort of youthful, exuberance.
Yeah, and there's like one of the things I love about Hailee Steinfeld is that there seems to be this ongoing thing with, I guess, the PR and her people and other factors coming in, where you keep seeing her at these events and they keep trying to sex her up, which is, it's fine. It is something that happens in the film industry. And then she opens her mouth and she's just spectacularly awkward.
Right.
And like all over the place and like just yeah, and I think she has a lot of charm as an actor, and Jeremy Renner has really grown on me as an actor.
I think he's great, and I think he's so perfect in this. I think their dynamic and their chemistry is just so great.
But like in looking at back at the Marvel movies, it's just like, oh yeah, they were just wasting you, weren't they? Like,
and that was the thing, I think even from early on, I think he was somewhat, I think he was like vocally a little frustrated about kind of the underuse of his character. Yeah. And I feel like there was, and I'm kind of searching the memory banks for the the actual quotes, but I think something to the effect that maybe he wasn't going to stick around beyond his early contract if he was just going to be kind of relegated to this like small role. So it's really great seeing him get to flex his acting chops and kind of like really sort of build up the character, because he's such a great character. I think all of us as like fans have been wanting to see this. I know I have, when this Fraction run was going, I was like, oh, I would love to see this aspect of the character, and and they're doing it, and it's and it is great.
Absolutely. And again, like week on week, it's just one of the best shows out there. And
it's crazy that they managed to fit so much into it too, because things like we were talking about, like all these characters, all these balls in the air in terms of plot lines and stuff, it shouldn't really work as well as it does, because there's just so much going on in it, and yet it does. It's it's just really good writing.
Couple of things this week interesting happening in the sort of world of comic book stuff, comic book movies and TV. Kevin Feige has said that now he hasn't said we're going to see Daredevil in future MCU projects, but what he has said is that if Daredevil was to pop up in any future MCU projects, he would almost certainly be played by Charlie Cox, which is just fueling the fire on Spider-Man.
It is all but confirming what we all kind of are anticipating, which is that, okay, we're probably going to be seeing Vincent D'Onofrio pop up in this, in Hawkeye, and we are also probably going to see Charlie Cox pop up in Spider-Man No Way Home.
I really hope. I really kind of hope they may as well just do it now. Although it kind of feels like now all the film is essentially ruined.
Wow.
By speculation. I mean, we've only got 8 days to go, like a week to go, or in fact even less, because I think it's actually coming out
a bit.
It's coming out earlier here, so
I hate you. I'm so jealous.
I think I'm not sure, Liz, but it was originally the 17th, and I think they bumped it to the 15th.
Oh my god, I'm gonna die. I'm gonna living in a world where the movie has already come out for 2 days and that I haven't seen it is gonna kill me inside.
Yeah, but you're in a different country.
It doesn't matter. There's the internet, Paul. What am I gonna do?
Even if you got on a plane, it would still roughly take 2 days before you saw it.
Oh my god. Yeah, see, this is not a welcome development for me, because I'm used to being on that side of the pond where I get to see the thing a few days early. And
I missed out today on, there was a thing at work where there was someone had a spare ticket that they can't use for a special
previous
screening, but it's on a day I'm working, and it's not in the evening. It's like earlier on in the day, so I can't. I couldn't put my hand up and go, yeah, I'll take it. So I'm really gutted about that. But Also, it would be then very difficult for me to shut my mouth
Right.
for a couple of weeks or for a week while I, to resist the urge to tell you, oh, by the way,
I would actually murder you. I would, not be able to handle it.
I wouldn't spoil it for you. I did inadvertently spoil the Eternals for someone at work, or spoil the cameos
after post credits,
by mistake, and I to this day I feel really bad about it. So there's all that happening, the MCU stuff. I mean, we've had the guy that plays Shazam, whose name I've forgotten.
Zachary Levi.
Yeah. So he's come out and said, I am really frustrated that you have to wait until 2023 to watch Shazam 2.
It's been a long time.
However, I don't know. I think that film is done and shot. I know they put out a lot of pictures of Helen Mirren and stuff and other actors. So I wonder if that's kind of him saying that as a sort of precursor to them pulling it forward. And we'll get it in 2022 because we're getting Black Adam next year. There's certainly been a lot of stuff kind of.
There has been big gaps with the DC films. I have no idea. When Shazam came out in 2019, I think.
Yeah.
That's a wait. That is a wait. DC obviously, they are not in any rush, I guess, in the way that Marvel keep, sort of banging out product. DC seem to be taking their time in between films, It's been quite some time since a DC film came out. I think the last one would have been Wonder Woman, correct? Or
pushing,
Wonder Woman 2.
They're pushing a lot of focus into the Bat universe. You've got the Batgirl movie coming out on HBO Max, which I believe is actually designed just for streaming. It's a streaming only thing. You've got Gotham Central, or whatever it's going to be called, the GCPD movie TV show, which apparently is now going to star Colin Farrell as the Penguin.
Oh wow!
In that film, apparently it's been announced that he's going to be appearing in it as the Penguin. Wow. We of course have the big one next year, which everyone's chomping at the bit for. That they keep releasing little TV spots for, and I'm not watching them. I don't know why. Normally I'd be kind of.
I'm not watching them either. I'm intentionally, I'm
intentionally
not
excited for that movie.
Mm-hmm.
So I hope that it's going to be good. I'm sure it is going to be good.
It looks good.
Yeah, it does look good. That's it from me on this. I'm
another great episode. Yep, another great episode. Really loved it. I think my favorite thing about it really is just watching Clint and Kate interact with each other. Everything else that's going on is great.
Let's not forget the scene with Kazi this week as well, which I loved.
That was really great.
Yeah. And it does kind of indicate that Kazi is he's got some frustrations of his own because he wants to kind of take over. I suspect they're going to move Echo into the kind of hero mode. I'm yet to see them. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, to do something that's focused on a villain.
Oh, they're not going to. They of course she's going to come out of this redeemed in some way.
Yeah, and I still think Marvel do wuss out a little bit in that kind of stuff, in that they don't let their bad guys really be bad guys.
Well, they did the Punisher. I mean,
Yeah, but even that was I think there is that thing. It's they've kind of got a point, and
sure. Look, I mean, but you're not going to build a show around a villain. You can't really do that without them.
I disagree.
Being at least somewhat sympathetic. I mean,
I love arseholes on TV. Like I think that is actually where it goes on for me.
Oh yeah, I mean, like Tony Soprano, whatever. It's like, yeah, people
yeah,
love
but
that.
I mean, it's certainly
But
why
they
I
have to
tune
be
into.
they have to be like somehow empathetic to the audience, and
Yeah,
I think that they did that really well with the Punisher. Honestly, like you see that he's like, going way further than any reasonable person would do, but you still like him and you still root for him. But he's not a good guy, you know. You see, and I'm dying for them to announce that John Bernthal, would be returning to the MCU as the Punisher.
that'll be the surprise. You know what? I'm going to say it now. I think that's going to be the surprise cameo in Spider-Man.
I would love it.
Whether it's the end credit stuff or somewhere there's going to be the Punisher. Because lest we forget, Punisher's first appearance
is in Spider-Man. Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
So I'm going to put money on now that it's going to be, he's going to pop up in there. Also, Sony announced a few weeks back that they are going to keep making Toby
Maguire?
No, not Toby. The kid who plays Spider-Man, Tom
Holland.
Yeah, Tom Holland Spider-Man movies. Too many Spider-Man, Liz. Too many Spider-Man. Plus, I'm hungry. Like, I want to go off and have dinner in a minute. They want to make another trilogy after this, and in fact, they said we're going to start straight away.
And he's agreed because he was kind of waffling.
Walked it back. I don't think he was waffling. I think he's having a case of nerves. I think he's quite a genuine, sweet kid, and he. There was that great bit of footage from like a premiere. I think we've talked about it before, where he was at like an event, and they're all like, all the fucking press are like, Tom, look this way, and you actually hear him go, please stop shouting at me. I think he's genuinely quite a sweet kid, and I think what that was nerves of, oh well, they might not want me anymore, and therefore. But I don't think that's true. I think.
People are crazy about him in the role.
Yeah, and it would be nice to follow him as he gets older.
Yeah,
and for them to actually allow Peter Parker to get older.
Yeah.
Because lest we forget, some of the best Spidey stuff is Peter Parker as an older man. Teaching high school rather than learning at it. I think there's some good stuff there. Anyway, I think we're done with this. How about you? Anything else you want to add?
Nope. I think we've talked about all of it, but I am dying for next week's episode. Can't wait to see. Me too. Where it picks up on episode 5.
It's the other thing that makes Wednesdays worth getting up for. Do you know what makes Thursdays worth getting up for, Liz?
What's that?
It's when I get to